for Bragg.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And I rise to speak in support of the Electoral Control of Corflutes Amendment Bill, and in doing so commend the Leader of the Opposition for bringing this bill before the House. I know that the Leader of the Opposition has for a long time been very passionate about this issue, and I thank him for giving us another opportunity today to change the law in this area. I wanted to make a brief contribution to this debate as the most recent person in this House to have adorned the streets of Adelaide with my face. And I did put a lot up, but sadly for the people of Bragg, perhaps if we can pass this bill today, it might be the last time that they see those posters on our stobie poles. And as the new Shadow Assistant Minister for the Environment, I say that's not entirely a bad thing, Mr Speaker, because we know there are very serious and real environmental concerns about the impact that election corflutes have. And we know that there's serious concerns in our community about the very limited use to be able to recycle election corflutes. This is because they're made out of effectively a corrugated polypropylene, which is a single-use plastic that has very limited recycling opportunities. There's two main ways that they can be recycled, both mechanical, and that's fairly complex and often complicated by issues usually to do with food contact, but also the sorting of different types of plastics, and also chemical. And we know that so many recycling centres around our state are simply not set up in a way that they can safely recycle these plastics in that way. Also, corflutes are rarely just that, corflute. Often they're adorned with stickers or glue or sometimes metal inlets, and that again complicates the recycling process, often to a point of near impossibility. And that's before we even get to the scourge of the cable tie, which is used to affix corflutes to stobie poles and is often found scattered across the streets of Adelaide and South Australia in the weeks and months following elections. Certainly not in Bragg. We clean up after ourselves. But what we see today, Mr Speaker, is just another opportunity for South Australia to continue in its nation-leading work in the waste management space and in the circular economy, whether it be pioneering the successful container deposit scheme back in 1977, or whether it be our proud history of being the first state to ban lightweight single-use plastic bags, or whether it be even more recent work undertaken by the previous Liberal government who banned a range of single-use plastics, including cutlery and straws and drink stirrers, and at that time also set out an ambitious agenda to roll out further bans of single-use plastics, and pleasingly that's what we're going to see happen over the coming months and indeed years. So surely the next step for us can be, as a parliament, leading by example and perhaps seeing the end of the election corflute on our streets. This isn't a new idea. We know it's worked elsewhere very successfully in other jurisdictions, including in New South Wales. And we also know it's a popular idea. I don't think the election corflute is much loved by the people of South Australia. Indeed, when the Liberal Party undertook its own consultation on this issue, some 93% of respondents supported the action that we can take today and see it as a practical and sensible action that we can take to protect our natural environment and help with waste management. And I might add that it's particularly sensible in light of the way that political communication and the methods that we used have advanced and changed over the years with the advent of social media and other technology, where the corflute is simply outdated. I don't think that the people of South Australia are finding it valuable or informative. It was disappointing that during the previous term of government that the Labor opposition didn't feel the same way and didn't support similar measures that could have seen the end of the election corflute. Perhaps the Premier quite likes seeing his face all around the streets of Adelaide. But I say, Mr Speaker, that the election corflute has had its day. It's bad for the environment, it's bad for road safety, it's bad for streetscape amenity, and it's got to go. So I commend this bill to the House.
Member for Elizabeth.
I move debate be adjourned, sir.
Been moved. Is it seconded?